It's time to breathe again on this latest breath of fresh air, Shorty, with your host, Chuck Taylor, or Charles Taylor, whichever one you want to call me, but it's cool. Um, so I haven't been on a Shorty for a little while, so it's definitely about time for me to get back on the one. And the topic I have today is my favorite NFL team, the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, everybody knows the NFL draft just happened, just concluded over the weekend. And one of the big stories that was dominating as the draft was getting closer and closer was what would the 49ers do with the third pick of the draft? Of course, they traded up. They were originally at number 12. They traded to get to traded to get to number 3 with the Miami Dolphins, and they gave up a few more picks to get the number 3 pick. So, of course, everybody knew they would take a quarterback with this choice. So, who would it be? Well, we knew the Jacksonville Jaguars going into the draft, they were going to take Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback out of Clemson, and the New York Jets, who was sitting at the number 2 pick, was in all practical purposes going to take Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU. And those two picks happened exactly how a lot of people were projecting it to happen. But nobody knew what the 49ers were going to do with the number 3 pick. So, of course, you had them sitting at that third spot. They had 3 quarterbacks to choose from. Would it be Justin Fields out of Ohio State? Would it be Mac Jones out of Alabama? Or would it be Trey Lance out of North Dakota State? Most people, as everything was getting closer, it people thought it would be Mac Jones, the Alabama quarterback, and a lot of people were thinking, or the people who thought Mac Jones would go to third in that spot, said it would be the good pick because he's ready to play right now. He played in Alabama, pro ready system, about as close to a pro system as you're going to get without actually being in the NFL, and he put up ridiculous numbers. All that is true. I understand. But Mac Jones isn't the most mobile guy. And honestly, the 49ers already had that with Jimmy Garoppolo. So my thinking with this was they were not, and I'm talking about the 49ers here, they were not going to go up and move all that draft capital to pick what they already had in place. Because if you get Mac Jones, you're basically getting another Jimmy Garoppolo. And I don't understand why a team would do that to draft somebody who not only is similar to what you already have, but honestly, in my opinion, was somebody you probably could have picked up in the later picks of the first round, which is exactly what happened there. More on that in a minute. But be as it may, the 49ers decided to choose Trey Lance. Now, I would have chose Justin Fields personally because I felt like Justin Fields was the best combination of everything you would possibly want there. If Trevor Lawrence was going to be gone, then I felt like Justin Fields was the second best quarterback in there. I'm not high on Zach Wilson at all. And I think you guys have seen enough webcasts and shorties from myself and from Patrick Brackett to know I'm not high on Zach Wilson at all. I don't understand how he got all this pub. I don't understand how he just extended himself up to the number 2 spot and how he's getting comparisons to Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, these great quarterbacks. I don't understand when number one, he hasn't played a game yet in the NFL, and number two, before this year, he wasn't doing anything. He was on nobody's radar at all. Kind of like Mac Jones, honestly. But he was nowhere on anybody's radar to do anything. The year before last, he had 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He was nowhere under the radar. And then all of a sudden, here he comes. He had a good season against a inferior schedule, to be honest, playing with BYU. Now, BYU got affected with COVID, or they got affected in terms of scheduling by the COVID pandemic that is going on, and seeing how they are independent, they basically had to scramble and see if they can find opponents. So give them credit for at least doing that and putting together a schedule. But I mean, it was unfortunately for them, it was an inferior schedule, and Zach Wilson piled up all these numbers against inferior opponents. And the best game that they played was against Coastal Carolina, and he struggled in that game. Now, people might say, well, hey, he almost led them to a comeback victory from behind, but throughout the game, he wasn't that good, simply put. But this isn't about Zach Wilson. I just wanted to throw that into context with how I felt about the quarterbacks because I didn't feel like Zach Wilson was all that great. He might prove me wrong with the Jets, but the Jets need a lot of help anyway, so we'll see how that goes. The but the quarterbacks as a whole, I felt like Justin Fields was the second best quarterback in there. And I felt because of where he was at in Ohio State, he was probably the most prepared quarterback out of all the rest. He played at a Power Five school, and he has been the starter there for 2 seasons, or I guess 1.5 seasons since Ohio State played 7 games, I guess, in the schedule. Or they played 8 games when you include the Big Ten championship game in the playoff. But I felt like between him being at that program, the mobility he possessed, and the pocket presence, I felt like he was the most ready right now to come in there and play just in case Jimmy Garoppolo could not stay healthy. And we all know Jimmy Garoppolo has struggled to stay healthy in the 3 seasons he has been the quarterback of the 49ers. The one season he did stay healthy, they went to the Super Bowl. Very good percentage of what happens if he can be available for the team. But I felt like Justin Fields was the best quarterback available. Now they took Trey Lance, which to me is maybe the biggest ceiling. He might have the biggest upside out of all those quarterbacks, including Trevor Lawrence. This man is very athletic, and he played well at North Dakota State. The problem is he really hasn't played. I think he's played 1 game in 2 seasons, pretty much, and I don't necessarily think he'll be ready to go now. But from the interviews I have heard when he has been on these other shows, it looks like he seems really intelligent and he can pick up the plays real quick and pick up that system real quick. So if Jimmy Garoppolo did go down, he may be ready to step in and keep everything going. And that mobility factor with that running game the 49ers have in place with those other running backs with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, all those guys, he will be set up for success with the system that is in place. And that's the main thing with these quarterbacks. You want to make sure if you're going to draft them, you have a system in place where there's not a whole bunch asked of them. You want to give them a little bit of leeway to be able to learn. And just so you guys know, it's okay if a quarterback sits and learn for a little bit. I know the thinking is if a quarterback gets drafted this high, you don't draft him that high for him to sit. I get it, understand it. But in a system like this, he can sit a little bit, he can learn, and he can develop the skills. And then when it is time for him to come in, which presumably will be, I guess, next year, if not later on this year, then he'll be ready. He'll be ready to take that responsibility on. Now, that is a worry because if he does sit down, then that'll be in essence two 2.5 seasons. He really hasn't played a game of any type of action, unless you include that one showcase game they played back in October. But interesting pick, but I like the pick. I feel like you want to get the guy with the upside, the guy who can do more things and can be a threat, passing and running the ball. Going up to trade Mac Jones, nothing against Mac Jones, but going up that far to trade to pick him, I just would have thought that was kind of a waste because you already have that in Jimmy Garoppolo. And Mac Jones, the New England Patriots got him at number 15. So to me, that's kind of where I felt Mac Jones was. I mean, he was a projected second round pick. before he came in. So, or before about a month and a half before the draft. So, I think everything kind of worked out the way I thought. I mean, like I said, me personally, I would have taken Justin Fields, but I understand why the 49ers went in the Trey Lance direction. Well, that's what I'm breathing on for today. Y'all make sure y'all check out the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook, excuse me, the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel and smash that subscribe button and keep the likes coming on the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. There will be more content coming throughout the week. And yes, the live webcast is still on for Tuesday night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. So until then, happy Monday. Everybody take care, and we'll talk to you later on this week.